My name is Lorraine Davis, and I'm 70 years old. I've lived through a lot in my life, raised 4 children on my own after my husband passed, worked as a nurse for 42 years, survived breast cancer twice. But nothing, and I mean nothing, prepared me for the moment I sat at a restaurant table while my daughter-in-law's entire family screamed at me, accusing me of trying to skip out on a $600 bill. When the bill came, your mom disappeared. My daughter-in-law's sister shouted across the table, pointing her finger at my son like I wasn't even sitting right there. She went to the bathroom and never came back. She's trying to stick us with the check. Everyone at that table, 8 people, turned to look at me with disgust, with anger, like I was some kind of criminal. And you know what I did. I stayed quiet. I let them finish. I let them say every hateful thing they wanted to say. Because I knew something they didn't know. And when the truth came out, everything was going to change. But before I tell you what happened next, I need you to do something for me. If you're watching this story right now, hit that subscribe button. Click it. Then smash that like button because this story is going to take you on a journey you won't forget. Turn on those notifications, that bell right there, so you never miss powerful stories like this one. Stories about dignity, about standing strong when people try to tear you down, about the moment truth wins. And drop a comment right now. Tell me where you're watching from. What city? What state? What country? I want to know who's here with me, because I need to know I'm not alone. That somewhere out there, somebody understands what it feels like when people judge you without knowing the whole story. Now, let me take you back to that restaurant. Let me tell you exactly how I ended up in the most humiliating moment of my life, and how I turned it into the most powerful. It was a Sunday afternoon in November, cold outside, the kind of day where you just want to stay home with a cup of tea and a good book. But my son, Anthony, had called me that morning. "Ma, I need a favor," he said. His voice sounded stressed, tired. "What is it, baby?" "Keisha's family is in town. Her parents, her sisters, their husbands, her brother. They want to do a big family lunch today, at Rosa's, that Italian place downtown." Rosa's, I knew that place. Expensive, very expensive. The kind of place where a simple pasta dish cost $35. "Okay," I said carefully. "What's the favor?" "Ma, I need you to come. Keisha's family wants to meet you. They've been asking about you for months and I keep making excuses. But they're only here for today and tomorrow. Can you make it, please?" My son Anthony had married Keisha 2 years ago. I'd met her a few times before the wedding. She seemed nice enough. Quiet. A little standoffish with me, but I figured she was just shy. I hadn't met her family yet. Every time there was a family gathering, I wasn't invited. Or I was told about it too late. Or there was some reason why it wasn't a good time. I tried not to take it personally. Young couples need their space. They need to build their own lives. But it hurt. I won't lie. It hurt to be kept at arm's length from my own son's new family. "What time?" I asked. 1 o'clock. Can you be there?" "I'll be there." "Thanks, Ma. And Ma." "Yes." Maybe dress nice. Keisha's family is kind of formal. They care about appearances." I looked down at what I was wearing, my comfortable house dress and slippers. "I'll dress nice," I said. After we hung up, I went to my closet and pulled out my best outfit, a burgundy pantsuit I'd bought for a wedding last year, my good shoes, my pearl earrings, the ones my late husband, Robert, had given me for our 20th anniversary. I did my hair carefully, put on makeup, looked at myself in the mirror. I wanted to make a good impression. I wanted Keisha's family to like me, to accept me. I wanted to belong. I took the bus downtown. I didn't drive anymore, my eyesight wasn't what it used to be, and arrived at Rosa's at 12:55, 5 minutes early. The hostess led me to a large table in the back of the restaurant. It was set for 9 people. Keisha was already there with her family. Her parents, a well-dressed couple in their 60s, her 2 sisters and their husbands, her brother. They all looked up when I approached. "Hi," I said with a warm smile. "I'm Lorraine, Anthony's mother." Keisha's mother, a woman named Diane, looked me up and down. Her expression was cold. "Oh," she said, just that. "Oh. Not nice to meet you. Not we've heard so much about you. Just oh." I felt my smile falter, but I kept it in place. "Anthony should be here any minute," I said, sitting down in the empty chair. "He said he was running a few minutes late." "Typical," one of Keisha's sisters muttered. I didn't catch which one. The table fell into an awkward silence. I tried to make conversation. "So, where are you all visiting from?" "Atlanta," Diane said shortly. "Oh, how nice. I've never been to Atlanta. Is it beautiful?" "It's fine." Another silence. Keisha's father, a man named Gerald, was on his phone, completely ignoring me. I tried again. "Keisha, honey, how have you been? I haven't seen you in a few weeks." Keisha glanced at her mother before answering. "I've been fine." "That's good. Anthony said you got a promotion at work. Congratulations." "Thanks." It was like pulling teeth. Every response was short, clipped, like they didn't want to talk to me. I felt my stomach tightening. This wasn't going well. Finally, Anthony arrived. He rushed to the table, looking flustered. "Sorry I'm late," he said, kissing Keisha on the cheek and nodding at her family. Then he looked at me. "Hey, Ma, glad you could make it." "Of course, baby." He sat down next to Keisha, across from me. The waiter came and took our drink orders. Wine for most of the table. Water for me. I didn't drink. Then Keisha's mother said something that made my blood run cold. "So, Lorraine," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "Anthony tells us you're retired." "Yes, I retired 3 years ago. I was a nurse for 42 years. "A nurse, how? Modest." The way she said it made it sound like an insult. "It was honest work," I said carefully. "I'm proud of what I did." "I'm sure," Diane said. Then she turned to Anthony. "Your father-in-law and I were just talking about how we're planning to help Keisha and you buy a house. A real house. In a good neighborhood." Anthony shifted uncomfortably. That's really generous." "We believe in taking care of our children," Gerald said, finally looking up from his phone. "Making sure they have what they need to succeed. That's what family does." The implication was clear. They were saying I didn't do that for Anthony, that I wasn't a good enough mother. I bit my tongue, said nothing. The meal was ordered. Appetizers, entrees, more wine, desserts. I watched the prices adding up in my head. This was going to be an expensive meal. But I didn't say anything. I just ordered a simple pasta dish, the cheapest thing on the menu, and tried to stay pleasant. The conversation flowed around me. Keisha's family talked about their lives in Atlanta, their big houses, their expensive cars, their country club memberships. They talked about Keisha's childhood, how she'd gone to private schools, how she'd had everything she ever wanted. Then Diane turned to me again. "So, Lorraine, where did Anthony go to school?" "Public school," I said. "We lived in a good district. He got a great education." "Public school," she repeated like I'd said prison. "No private tutors, no extracurricular enrichment." "I worked full-time," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "I did the best I could. Anthony turned out just fine." "Did he?" One of the sisters, I think her name was Monica, said under her breath. I pretended not to hear. The meal continued. The conversation continued, and I became smaller and smaller at that table. They weren't including me. They were tolerating me. And worse, Anthony wasn't defending me. He just sat there, eating his food, saying nothing while his wife's family treated his mother like garbage. After dessert, I excused myself to use the restroom. I needed a moment, just a moment to breathe, to compose myself, to remind myself that I was a strong woman who didn't need validation from people like this. I went to the ladies' room, used the facilities, washed my hands, and looked at myself in the mirror. "You're okay," I whispered to my reflection. "You're going to get through this. Just another hour and you can go home." I took a deep breath and walked back toward the table. But as I got closer, I heard raised voices. Shouting. I slowed down, staying just out of sight. "Ridiculous. The bill is over $600. That was Diane's voice. I told you I thought we were splitting it. Anthony's voice. Defensive. Splitting it between 9 people. That's still almost $70 each. We didn't agree to this. Well, what did you think was going to happen? You all ordered the most expensive things on the menu. Don't you dare blame us. This was your family lunch. You invited us. I stood there, frozen, listening. Look, I can cover part of it, Anthony started. Part of it? What about your mother? Where is she anyway? I heard Keisha's voice then. She went to the bathroom like 20 minutes ago. 20 minutes, Monica's voice, sharp and accusatory. The bathroom is right there. How long does it take? Then I heard it, the words that made my heart stop. Oh my God, Monica said. You don't think she left, do you? Left, Gerald's voice. Yeah, like snuck out to avoid paying. A horrible silence. Then Diane. Well, she did order the cheapest thing on the menu. Maybe she's cheap in more ways than one. Are you seriously suggesting my mother would dine and dash? Anthony's voice, finally showing some backbone. I'm just saying it's convenient timing. The bill comes, she disappears. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. They thought I was trying to skip out on the bill. They thought I was a thief. I stood there for a long moment, trying to decide what to do. Part of me wanted to walk out, to leave them there to deal with their accusations and their expensive bill. But another part of me, the stronger part, knew I had to face this. I walked back to the table. All eyes turned to me. There you are, Monica said, her voice dripping with false relief. We were starting to think you'd left. I sat down slowly, calmly. Why would I leave? I asked quietly. Well, the bill came, she said, gesturing to the check sitting in the middle of the table. And you disappeared for 20 minutes. It looked suspicious. Suspicious, I repeated. Yeah, like maybe you were trying to avoid paying your share. The table went silent. I looked at each of them, at Keisha's family with their judgmental faces and expensive clothes, at my son, who looked mortified but still wasn't defending me, at Keisha, who wouldn't meet my eyes. When the bill came, your mom disappeared, Monica said loudly, turning to Anthony. She went to the bathroom and never came back. She's trying to stick us with the check. That's not, Anthony started. It's exactly what it looks like, Diane interrupted. We've been sitting here for 20 minutes wondering if she was coming back or if we were going to have to cover her portion. I let them talk, let them accuse, let them judge. Because I knew something they didn't know. While they were busy ordering expensive wine and $50 steaks and $30 desserts, I'd been doing something else. I'd been watching, listening, calculating. And I'd made a decision. I reached into my purse, slowly, deliberately, and pulled out my wallet. Every eye at that table was on me. I opened my wallet and pulled out my credit card. Then I looked at the waiter, who was hovering nearby awkwardly. Excuse me, I said. My voice was calm, steady. I'll take the check. What? Monica said. The whole check, I clarified. All of it I'm paying. You could have heard a pin drop. Ma, you don't have to, Anthony started. I'm paying, I repeated. I handed my credit card to the waiter. The whole thing. The waiter took my card and practically ran away. Diane's mouth was hanging open. Monica looked shocked. Gerald finally put down his phone. Why would you do that? Diane asked. After you just accused me of being a thief, I finished for her. After you judged me, insulted me, talked down to me all through lunch. After you implied I was a bad mother who didn't provide for her son. Silence. I'm paying, I said, because I can, because I want to, and because there's something you all need to understand. The waiter returned with my card and the receipt. I signed it, added a generous tip, 30%. The waiter deserved it for having to witness this disaster. Then I stood up. I may not have a country club membership, I said quietly. I may not have gone to private schools or driven fancy cars, but I worked for 42 years as a nurse. I saved lives. I raised 4 children on my own after my husband died. I put all of them through college. I own my home outright. I have savings. I have retirement. I have dignity. I picked up my purse. And unlike some people, I don't judge others based on their bank accounts or their zip codes. I judge them based on their character. And from what I've seen today, your bank accounts are much bigger than your hearts. I turned to Anthony. I'm going home now. When you're ready to have a real conversation about respect and family, you know where to find me. Then I turned to Keisha. And you, sweetheart, you deserve a husband who will stand up for his mother, who won't sit silent while his wife's family tears her down. I hope you find that in Anthony. But after today, I'm not so sure. I walked toward the door with my head held high. Behind me, I heard chaos erupting. Voices, arguments. But I didn't turn around. I walked out of that restaurant, into the cold November air, and I took the bus home. And as I sat on that bus, looking out the window at the city passing by, I made a decision. Things were going to change. I wasn't going to be disrespected anymore, not by Keisha's family, not by my own son. And what happened next, what I discovered when I got home, was going to change everything. Because waiting for me on my doorstep was a letter. A certified letter. From a law firm. And when I opened it, I realized that this horrible day was about to become something else entirely. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I stood on my front porch, staring at that certified letter in my hands. The return address said, Morrison and Associates, Estate Law. Estate Law. My hands trembled as I unlocked my door and went inside. I didn't even take off my coat. I just sat down at my kitchen table and opened the envelope. Inside was a formal letter on heavy paper, legal language, official seals. I started reading. Dear Mrs. Lorraine Davis, we are writing to inform you that you have been named as a beneficiary in the estate of Ms. Ruth Alina Carmichael, who passed away on October 15th of this year. Ms. Carmichael was a patient under your care at St. Mary's Hospital from 2018 to 2020. In her will, she has left you a bequest in recognition of the exceptional care and compassion you showed her during her illness. Please contact our office at your earliest convenience to discuss the details of this inheritance and to begin the probate process. Sincerely, James Morrison-esque. I read it 3 times. Ruth Carmichael. I remembered her. Of course I remembered her. She'd been one of my patients during my last 2 years of nursing. Elderly woman, no family, battling late-stage lung cancer. She'd been in and out of the hospital for treatments. She was difficult, demanding. Most of the other nurses avoided her because she complained constantly and refused to follow instructions. But I'd seen past all that. I'd seen a scared, lonely woman facing death with no one by her side. So I'd made time for her, sat with her during her treatments, held her hand when she cried, brought her books from the library, listened to her stories about her life. When she died, I'd gone to her funeral. There were maybe 5 people there, the priest, the funeral director, 2 distant cousins who looked bored, and me. I'd cried at that funeral, for Ruth, for the lonely life she'd lived, for the lonely death she'd died. And now, she'd left me something in her will. I picked up my phone and called the number on the letter. A receptionist answered, Morrison and Associates. Hello, my name is Lorraine Davis. I received a letter about an inheritance from Ruth Carmichael's estate. Oh yes, Mrs. Davis. Mr. Morrison has been expecting your call. Let me transfer you. A moment later, a man's voice came on the line. Mrs. Davis, thank you for calling. I'm James Morrison. I handled Ms. Carmichael's estate. The letter said she left me something. Yes, Ms. Carmichael was quite specific in her will. She said, and I quote, Lorraine Davis was the only person who treated me like a human being instead of a burden. She deserves to know that her kindness mattered. My eyes filled with tears. What did she leave me? I asked quietly. Her estate was valued at approximately $340,000. After taxes and legal fees, the amount comes to roughly $280,000. She left it all to you. The phone slipped from my hand. I caught it just before it hit the floor. I'm sorry, could you repeat that? $280,000, Mrs. Davis. The full amount will be transferred to you once we complete probate, which should take about 6 to 8 weeks. I couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. Mrs. Davis, are you still there? Yes, I whispered. I'm here, I can't believe it. Believe it, Mr. Morrison said warmly. Ms. Carmichael wanted you to have security, comfort. She specifically noted in her will that you should use it to live well and stop worrying. After I hung up, I sat at my kitchen table in my burgundy pantsuit and pearl earrings, and I cried. Not sad tears, overwhelmed tears. Ruth Carmichael, a woman I'd simply tried to treat with dignity and kindness, had given me a gift beyond measure. Financial security for the rest of my life. I thought about what had just happened at the restaurant, how Keisha's family had judged me for being modest, for not having money to throw around, for ordering the cheapest thing on the menu. They'd assumed I was poor, struggling, desperate. And I'd let them think it. Because the truth was, I didn't need to prove anything to them. I'd paid that $600 bill without blinking, and even before this inheritance, I could have afforded it. I'd been a nurse for 42 years. I owned my home. I had savings. But they'd looked at me and seen what they wanted to see, someone beneath them. And now, ironically, I was about to become wealthier than any of them. My phone rang. It was Anthony. I almost didn't answer, but I did. Ma, his voice was strained. Ma, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. For what, Anthony? For letting your wife's family insult me all through lunch, for not defending me when they accused me of being a thief, for sitting there silent while they tore me down. All of it, he said, his voice cracked. All of it. I was a coward, Ma. I should have stood up for you. I should have shut them down the second they started disrespecting you. Yes, you should have. After you left, all hell broke loose. Keisha's family was shocked that you paid. They started arguing about whether they should have stopped you. Diane kept saying she was just joking, that it wasn't serious. But Ma, it was serious. The way they treated you was horrible. And where was Keisha in all this? I asked. Silence. Anthony. She said you were being dramatic, that her family was just making conversation, that you overreacted. I closed my eyes. I see. But Ma, I told her she was wrong. I told her you were right to be upset. We got into a huge fight after her family left. What kind of fight? About respect, about boundaries, about how she lets her family treat me, and you like we're not good enough. Ma, I've been seeing it for a while, but I kept making excuses. Today I couldn't anymore. I sighed. Anthony, I love you. You're my son. But you need to understand something. You chose to marry Keisha. You chose her family. And if they don't respect me and she doesn't defend me, then I can't keep putting myself in situations where I'm treated like trash. I know, Ma, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to talk to Keisha, set boundaries, make sure this never happens again. Words are easy, baby. Actions are what matter. I know, I'll prove it to you, I promise. After we hung up, I sat there thinking. I didn't tell Anthony about the inheritance, not yet. Because I needed to see what he, and Keisha, would do without knowing about the money. Would they apologize because it was the right thing to do, or only because they found out I had money? That would tell me everything I needed to know. Over the next few days, I waited. Anthony called every day, apologizing, trying to make things right. But Keisha never called, never texted, nothing. Then, exactly 1 week after the restaurant incident, my doorbell rang. I opened it to find Keisha standing there. She looked uncomfortable, like she'd rather be anywhere else. Hi, Lorraine, she said. Can I come in? I stepped aside and let her in. We sat in my living room. She perched on the edge of my couch like she might need to run at any moment. Anthony said I should come talk to you, she began. He said you should, or you wanted to. She flinched. Both. I wanted to apologize for what happened at the restaurant. Okay, I'm listening. My family can be intense. They have high standards. They judge people quickly. I know they were rude to you. They were more than rude, Keisha. They accused me of being a thief. I know, and I'm sorry they said that, but you have to understand they're protective of me. They want to make sure I married well, that Anthony can provide for me. And you think he can't. I didn't say that. But that's what your family thinks, isn't it? That Anthony, and by extension, I aren't good enough. That we don't have enough money, enough status, enough class. She didn't answer. Keisha, let me ask you something. Do you love my son? Of course I do. Then why didn't you defend him? Why didn't you defend me? When your family was tearing us down, you sat there silent, just like Anthony did. Because, she hesitated, because standing up to my family is hard. They're very strong-willed. They don't like being challenged. So you'd rather let them disrespect your husband and his mother than risk upsetting them. She looked down at her hands. Keisha, I'm going to tell you something my late husband told me once. He said, when you marry someone, you don't just marry them. You marry into their whole life. Their family becomes your family, and you protect each other, always. I know. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're protecting your family's feelings while sacrificing your husband's dignity. And mine. That's not how marriage works. She stood up abruptly. I came here to apologize, not to be lectured. Sit down, Keisha. Something in my voice made her sit. I'm not trying to lecture you, I said more gently. I'm trying to help you understand. Your family's money and status don't impress me. What impresses me is character, integrity, kindness. And right now, you and your family are showing me very little of any of those things. My family has been very successful. Success without character is just wealth, and wealth without kindness is just greed. She stared at me. I paid for that lunch, I continued, not because I had to, not because I was trying to prove something, but because I wanted to show you all that I don't need your approval. I don't need your validation. I'm secure in who I am. We never said you needed our approval. You didn't have to say it. You showed it. In every condescending comment, every judgmental look, every dismissive response. Keisha's eyes filled with tears. What do you want from me? I want you to respect me. I want you to respect my son. I want you to stand up to your family when they're wrong. And I want you to understand that family isn't about money or status. It's about love, support, being there for each other. She wiped her eyes. I don't know if I can do that. Then you need to decide what's more important to you. Your family's approval or your marriage. That's not fair. Life isn't fair, Keisha, but choices have consequences. And right now, you're choosing your family over your husband. How long do you think he's going to tolerate that? She stood up again. I need to go. Okay. She walked to the door, then turned back. For what it's worth, I am sorry. About the restaurant, about my family, about everything. I believe you're sorry it happened, I said. I'm just not sure you're sorry enough to change anything. After she left, I sat down and thought about my next move. Because I'd made a decision. I wasn't going to tell anyone about the inheritance. Not yet. Not until I saw who stood by me, without knowing I had money. Not until I saw who valued me for who I was, not what I had. 2 weeks later, Anthony called with news. Ma, Keisha and I have been going to counseling. Counseling? Yeah, marriage counseling. We need help working through this stuff. The issues with her family, the boundaries, all of it. That's good, Anthony. I'm proud of you for taking that step. The counselor wants to do a family session with you and Keisha's parents to talk through what happened and try to find a path forward. Every fiber of my being wanted to say no. But I thought about it. Okay, I said. I'll do it. But Anthony, I'm going to be honest in that session. I'm going to say exactly how I feel. If that upsets Keisha's family, that's not my problem. I know, Ma. I wouldn't expect anything less. The family counseling session was scheduled for the following week. I arrived at the counselor's office on time, wearing my best dress and my pearl earrings. Keisha's parents were already there. They looked at me coldly. Anthony and Keisha arrived a few minutes later. The counselor, a kind-looking woman named Dr. Patterson, welcomed us all. "Thank you for coming," she said. "I know this is uncomfortable, but we're here to create a safe space where everyone can share their feelings and hopefully find understanding." We all sat down in a circle. Dr. Patterson turned to Diane and Gerald first. "Why don't you start by sharing your perspective on what happened at the restaurant?" Diane shifted in her seat. "Well, we were shocked when Lorraine paid the bill. We hadn't asked her to do that." "But you just spent 20 minutes accusing her of trying to skip out on it," I said calmly. Dr. Patterson held up her hand. "Lorraine, you'll get your turn. Let them finish." Diane continued. "We were confused about who was paying. The bill was expensive. We thought we were splitting it. When Lorraine disappeared for so long, we jumped to conclusions. We shouldn't have. That was wrong." "Do you understand why your conclusions were hurtful?" Dr. Patterson asked. "I suppose," Diane said, "but it was a misunderstanding." "Was it?" I asked. "Or was it an assumption based on the fact that you think I'm poor, that I can't afford nice things, that I'm beneath you?" The room went silent. Dr. Patterson turned to me. "Lorraine, tell us how you felt." And I did. I told them everything. How they dismissed me from the moment I sat down. How they judged my career, my choices, my life. How they'd implied I was a bad mother. How they'd treated me like I was worthless. "And when you accused me of trying to skip the bill," I said, my voice shaking with emotion, "you confirmed what I already knew, that you never saw me as a person. You saw me as someone to look down on." Diane's face was red. "That's not we didn't mean." "Didn't you?" I asked. "Because everything about your behavior that day told me exactly what you thought of me. I wasn't good enough, rich enough, classy enough." Gerald finally spoke. "We want the best for our daughter. Is that so wrong?" "No," I said, "but the best shouldn't be measured in dollar signs. It should be measured in character, in how people treat each other, in love and respect." "We have character," Diane started. "Do you?" I interrupted. "Because people with character don't mock others for being modest. People with character don't assume the worst about someone just because they're not wealthy. People with character treat everyone with dignity, regardless of their bank account." The room fell silent. Then I said something I'd been holding back. "You want to know the truth? I could buy and sell you 10 times over." Everyone stared at me. "What?" Gerald said. "I recently inherited $280,000, I said calmly, "from a patient I cared for, because I treated her with kindness and respect. But I didn't tell anyone because I wanted to see who would value me for who I am, not what I have." Diane's mouth fell open. "And you know what I learned?" I continued. "I learned that you're exactly who I thought you were, people who judge others based on appearances, who measure worth in material things, who treat people poorly when they think there's nothing to gain." I stood up. "I don't need your approval. I don't need your acceptance. I have my dignity. I have my character. And I have enough money to live comfortably for the rest of my life." I turned to Anthony and Keisha. "I love you both. But Keisha, until you can stand up to your parents and put your marriage first, you're not ready to be married. And Anthony, until you can defend your wife and your mother without hesitation, you're not ready to be a husband." I picked up my purse. "When you're both ready to be real partners, partners who respect each other and each other's families, call me. Until then, I'm going to live my life, on my terms." And I walked out of that office with my head held high. Behind me, I heard chaos erupting. Voices, arguments, shock. But I didn't stop. I walked out into the sunshine, took a deep breath, and smiled. Because for the first time in years, I felt completely, utterly free. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. The next few weeks were the quietest I'd experienced in years. No calls from Anthony, no visits from Keisha, No drama from her family. Just silence. And honestly, it felt good. I spent my days doing things I'd been putting off for years. I got my teeth cleaned. I scheduled that eye exam I'd been avoiding. I bought new towels for my bathroom. The old ones were threadbare and falling apart. Small things, things that made my life more comfortable. I also started volunteering at the hospital again. Not as a nurse, I was retired, but at the information desk, helping visitors find their way, sitting with lonely patients who had no family. It felt right. It felt like me. 3 weeks after the counseling session, I received a letter in the mail. Not certified this time, just a regular envelope with Diane's return address. I almost threw it away without opening it. But curiosity got the better of me. Inside was a handwritten note on expensive stationery. Dear Lorraine, I've been thinking about what you said at the counseling session, about character and dignity and how we treated you. You were right. I've spent my whole life measuring people by their achievements, their possessions, their status. It's how I was raised. It's what I thought mattered. But watching my daughter's marriage fall apart because of my behavior has made me realize something. I've been wrong. You showed more grace and class in that one terrible lunch than I've shown in my entire life. You paid a $600 bill for people who had just accused you of being a thief. You walked away with dignity when most people would have caused a scene. And you did it all without needing to prove your worth. I'm writing to apologize, truly apologize. Not because you have money now, though I'll admit that revelation shocked me, but because you deserve an apology regardless of your bank account. You deserve respect, you deserve kindness, and I failed to give you either. I don't expect you to forgive me, I don't expect us to be friends, but I wanted you to know that I'm sorry, and that I'm working on being better. If there's any chance you'd be willing to give us, another opportunity to start over, I would be grateful. Sincerely, Diane. I read the letter 3 times. It sounded sincere, genuine. But I'd been burned before by people who said the right things, but didn't follow through with the right actions. I folded the letter and put it in my desk drawer. I wasn't ready to respond yet. 2 days later, Anthony showed up at my door. He looked different, thinner, tired, like he hadn't been sleeping well. "Ma, can we talk?" he asked. I let him in. We sat at my kitchen table. I made tea, the way I always did when one of my children needed to talk. "Keisha moved out," he said quietly. I set down my teacup. "What?" "2 weeks ago, she said she needed space, time to think. She's staying with her cousin across town." "I'm sorry, baby." "Don't be sorry, Ma. This is my fault. I let things get this bad. I chose to stay silent when I should have spoken up. I prioritized peace over principle, and now I'm paying for it." He looked up at me with tears in his eyes. "You tried to warn me. You tried to show me, but I didn't want to see it. I wanted to believe that love would be enough, that if I just kept the peace, everything would work out." "Love is important," I said gently. "But love without respect isn't sustainable. Love without boundaries isn't healthy." I know that now. The counselor has been helping me see it, helping me understand that I enabled Keisha's family, that by staying silent, I was choosing them over you, over us. "What are you going to do?" I asked. I told Keisha she has to make a choice. Either she commits to our marriage, which means setting boundaries with her family and putting us first, or we end it. I reached across the table and squeezed his hand. "That took courage, Anthony. I'm proud of you." "I'm terrified," he admitted. "I love her, Ma, but I can't live like this anymore, walking on eggshells, pretending her family's behavior is okay, watching them disrespect you and doing nothing about it." "Then you're doing the right thing." We sat in silence for a moment. Then Anthony said, "Ma, I heard about the inheritance. Keisha told me." I tensed, and I'm happy for you. You deserve it. Ruth Carmichael was lucky to have you as her nurse. You're not upset I didn't tell you." He shook his head. "I understand why you didn't. You wanted to see who would stick around without knowing about the money. That's smart. I wasn't testing you, Anthony. Yes, you were, and you should have. Because I failed that test, Ma. I failed you long before you got that inheritance. I failed you when I let Keisha's family treat you like garbage, when I stayed silent at that lunch, when I didn't defend you. You're doing better now, I said. That's what matters. I want to do more than better, he said. I want to make things right, really right. How? He pulled an envelope from his jacket pocket and set it on the table. What's this? I asked. Open it. Inside was a check, made out to me, for $600. Anthony. That's for the lunch, he said. I should have paid it, or at least split it with you. You shouldn't have had to cover the whole thing. I don't need this money. I know you don't, but I need to give it to you. I need to pay my own way, to show you that I'm taking responsibility. I looked at my son, really looked at him, and I saw something I hadn't seen in a long time. Growth, maturity, strength. Thank you, I said, accepting the check. We talked for another hour, about his marriage, about his hopes for the future, about what he was learning in counseling. When he left, he hugged me tight. I love you, Ma, and I'm going to do better, I promise. I know you will, baby. I believe in you. After he left, I sat down and wrote a response to Diane's letter. Dear Diane, thank you for your letter. I appreciate your apology and your willingness to acknowledge what happened. I'm not ready to say all is forgiven. Trust isn't rebuilt overnight, but I'm willing to give you an opportunity to show me through your actions that you've changed. If you're serious about making things right, here's what I need. 1, stop judging people by their bank accounts. Start seeing people for who they are, not what they have. 2, support Keisha and Anthony's marriage by respecting their boundaries and their choices, even when you disagree. 3, treat me with the same respect you'd give anyone else, not because I have money, but because I'm a human being who deserves dignity. If you can do these things, then maybe we can build something new, not friendship necessarily, but mutual respect. That's all I'm asking for. Sincerely, Lorraine. I mailed the letter the next day. A week later, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered cautiously. Hello. Lorraine, this is Diane. I tensed. Hello, Diane. I got your letter. I wanted to call and tell you that I accept your terms, all of them. Okay. I also wanted to ask if you'd be willing to meet for coffee. Just you and me. No agenda, no drama, just a conversation. I thought about it. Why? I asked. Because I want to get to know you. The real you. Not the version I created in my head based on my own prejudices and insecurities. Insecurities. She sighed. Can we talk about this in person, please? Something in her voice sounded genuine. Okay, I said. Coffee, but somewhere neutral, not anywhere fancy. How about that little cafe on Maple Street? Bernie's. I know it, tomorrow at 10 a.m. Perfect, thank you, Lorraine. The next morning, I arrived at Bernie's at 9:55 a.m. Diane was already there, sitting at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. She stood when she saw me. I got you coffee, I hope that's okay. Cream, no sugar, right? That's what you ordered at Rosa's. I was surprised she'd remembered. That's right, I said, sitting down. We sat in awkward silence for a moment. Then Diane said, I need to tell you something, and I need you to just listen. Can you do that? I nodded. I grew up poor, she said. Really poor. My father was a janitor. My mother cleaned houses. We lived in a 2-bedroom apartment with 6 kids. I wore hand-me-downs and free lunch program shoes. I stayed quiet, listening. I hated it, she continued. I hated being poor. I hated the way people looked down on us. The way teachers assumed we were stupid because we couldn't afford school supplies. The way other kids made fun of our clothes. She wrapped her hands around her coffee cup. So I made a promise to myself. I was going to be rich. I was going to marry rich. I was going to give my children everything I never had. And I did. I married Gerald, who came from money. We built a successful life. We gave our kids private schools, nice clothes, opportunities. That's admirable, I said carefully. But somewhere along the way, she said, her voice breaking, I became the person I used to hate. I became the person who judges others based on money, who looks down on people for being modest, who measures worth in dollars and status. Tears rolled down her cheeks. When I saw you at that lunch in your nice but not designer clothes, ordering the cheapest thing on the menu, being so gracious and kind, I saw myself. The old me, the poor me, and I hated it. So I lashed out. I judged you. I treated you the way I'd been treated. She wiped her eyes. And when you paid that bill without blinking, when you walked out with your dignity intact, I realized something. You have what I've been searching for my whole life. Not money, but peace, confidence, self-worth that doesn't depend on external validation. I felt my own eyes filling with tears. I'm so sorry, Lorraine, she said. I'm sorry for projecting my insecurities onto you. I'm sorry for treating you like you weren't good enough. And I'm sorry for nearly ruining my daughter's marriage because of my own issues. I reached across the table and took her hand. Thank you for telling me this, I said. That took courage. I've been going to therapy, she said. Working through this stuff. My therapist helped me see that I've been running from my past instead of accepting it, that I've been trying to prove my worth through money instead of character. It's never too late to change, I said. Is it too late for us, she asked. For you and me, for our families. I thought about it. I don't know, I said honestly, but I'm willing to try if you are. She smiled through her tears. I'd like that. We talked for another hour, really talked, about our lives, our struggles, our hopes. And slowly, I started to see Diane not as the enemy, but as a wounded woman trying to heal. Over the next few weeks, things started to shift. Diane invited me to lunch, just the two of us, at normal restaurants where we could talk without pretense. She asked about my nursing career, my late husband, my children. And she listened, really listened. Anthony and Keisha started counseling together again, working through their issues. Keisha called me one afternoon. Lorraine, can I come see you? Of course. When she arrived, she looked different, softer, less defensive. I owe you an apology, she said. A real one, not the half-hearted one I gave before. I'm listening. I've been doing a lot of thinking, and a lot of therapy, and I've realized that I've been letting my family control my life, my choices, my marriage. She sat down on my couch. My whole life I've been trying to live up to their expectations, be the perfect daughter, marry the right man, have the right career, the right house, the right life. And, I prompted gently, and I forgot to figure out what I wanted, what makes me happy, who I am outside of their expectations. What do you want, Keisha? I want a marriage based on love and respect. I want a family that supports each other instead of tearing each other down. I want to be a woman of character, not just a woman of status. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes. And I want you to be part of my life, not at arm's length, but really part of it, as my mother-in-law, as family. What changed? I asked. You did, the way you handled everything, the dignity you showed, the strength. I've never seen anyone walk away from disrespect with such grace, and I want to be like that. I felt my heart soften. Keisha, I'm not perfect. I've made plenty of mistakes in my life. But you own them. You don't make excuses. You don't blame others. You take responsibility and you do better. That's what I want to learn from you. We talked for a long time that afternoon. And slowly, I started to see the woman my son had fallen in love with. Not the one trying to please her family, but the real Keisha. Kind, thoughtful, trying to grow. A month after that conversation, Anthony called. Ma, Keisha, and I want to renew our vows. A small ceremony, just close family. And we want you to be part of it, not just as a guest, but as a participant. What do you mean? We want you to say something about marriage, about family, about what you've learned in your life. Will you do it? Of course, baby. I'd be honored. The vow renewal was held on a Saturday afternoon in December. Just 10 people. Me, Anthony, Keisha, Diane, Gerald, Keisha's siblings, and a minister. It was held in a small chapel. Simple, beautiful, meaningful. When it came time for my part, I stood up in front of them all. Marriage, I began, isn't about perfection. It's about partnership. It's about choosing each other every day, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I looked at Anthony and Keisha. You two have been through a storm. You've faced challenges that would have destroyed some couples, but you're still here, still fighting for each other. That's what matters. I turned to Diane and Gerald. And family, real family, isn't about money or status or appearances. It's about showing up, supporting each other, loving each other through mistakes and growth and change. I looked at everyone. We've all made mistakes. We've all said things we regret, done things we wish we could take back. But the beautiful thing about family is that we get to start over. We get to do better. We get to build something new. I smiled through my tears. So today, we're not just renewing vows between Anthony and Keisha. We're renewing our commitment to each other as a family, to respect, to kindness, to seeing each other as people, not as stereotypes or judgments. When I finished, there wasn't a dry eye in the chapel. After the ceremony, Diane pulled me aside. "Thank you," she said, "for giving us another chance, for showing us what real grace looks like." "We all deserve second chances," I said, "as long as we're willing to do the work to earn them." That evening, we all went to dinner together. Not at Rosa's, not at some expensive restaurant. At a small, family-owned Italian place where the pasta was homemade and the atmosphere was warm. And as I sat at that table, surrounded by my son, his wife, and her family, all of us laughing and talking and genuinely enjoying each other, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Belonging. Real, genuine belonging. Not because of money, not because of status, not because I had to prove anything, but because we'd all chosen to do better, to be better, to build something real. As we left the restaurant that night, Keisha hugged me tight. "Thank you for not giving up on us," she whispered. "Family doesn't give up," I said. "We fight for each other, always." And as I drove home that night, I thought about everything that had happened. The humiliation at Rosa's, the accusations, the inheritance, the counseling sessions, the apologies, the growth. All of it had led to this moment. A moment of healing, of new beginnings, of hope. I'd stood my ground. I'd demanded respect. I'd refused to be diminished. And in doing so, I'd shown everyone, including myself, what real strength looks like. Not loud, not aggressive, not vengeful, but quiet, dignified, unshakable. And that, I realized as I pulled into my driveway, was the most powerful thing of all. Before I continue this story, kindly subscribe, like, turn on the notification bell, and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. 6 months had passed since the vow renewal ceremony. 6 months of slow, steady progress, of building trust, of creating new family traditions. It was now June, and I was sitting on my front porch on a warm Saturday morning, sipping my tea and reading a book, when a car pulled up. Anthony and Keisha got out, and they were both smiling in a way that made my heart skip. "Ma," Anthony called out, "we have news." I set down my book. Good news, I hope. They practically ran up to my porch. Keisha grabbed my hands. "Lorraine, we're pregnant." I gasped. "Pregnant?" 12 weeks, she said, her eyes shining. "We wanted to wait until we were past the first trimester to tell anyone, but you're the first to know." I stood up and hugged them both, tears streaming down my face. "I'm going to be a grandmother," I whispered. "You already are a grandmother," Anthony said, laughing, "to my brother's kids." "But this will be different," I said. "This is your baby, my first grandbaby from you." We spent the morning talking about the pregnancy, about names, about nursery plans, about their hopes and dreams for this child. "Ma, we want to ask you something," Anthony said after a while. "Anything." We want you to be very involved in this baby's life, not just as a grandmother who visits occasionally, but as a real presence, someone who's there. I would love that, I said. And we want to make sure you have what you need to do that, Keisha added, which is why we've been thinking about your living situation. I frowned. My living situation, what's wrong with my house? Nothing's wrong with it, Anthony said quickly. But Ma, you're 70 years old. This house is 30 years old. Things are starting to break down. The roof needs work. The plumbing is old. The heating system is inefficient. I manage just fine. We know you do, Keisha interrupted gently. But we want to help. We want to make sure you're comfortable, safe, that you don't have to worry about things breaking down. What are you suggesting? I asked carefully. Anthony pulled out his phone and showed me photos. It was a house, a beautiful, modest house in a nice neighborhood. This house is for sale 3 blocks from us, he said. 2 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms, updated everything. Single story, so no stairs, easy maintenance, safe neighborhood, close to the hospital where you volunteer. And close to us, Keisha added. So when the baby comes, you can be there. Help out if you want to, be part of their daily life. I looked at the photos. The house was lovely, perfect for someone my age. I can't afford this, I said quietly. We know, Anthony said. That's why we want to buy it for you. I looked up sharply. What? Ma, you've given us so much. You raised us, sacrificed for us, showed us what real strength and character look like. Let us do this for you. Anthony, I have the inheritance money. We know, and you should keep that for yourself, for your future, for security. This house is our gift to you. I shook my head. That's too much. Houses are expensive. We've already talked to the bank, Keisha said. We can afford it. And honestly, Lorraine, we want to do this. We want you near us. We want our child to grow up knowing their grandmother, really knowing her. I felt tears welling up again. I don't know what to say. Say yes, Anthony said. Please, Ma, let us take care of you for once. I looked at my son and his wife, and I saw something that made my heart full. Love, real, genuine love, not obligation, not duty, but genuine desire to have me in their lives. Okay, I whispered. Yes. They both hugged me so tight I could barely breathe. Over the next month, everything moved quickly. Anthony and Keisha made an offer on the house. It was accepted. They handled all the paperwork, all the logistics. All I had to do was pack my things and prepare to move. Diane and Gerald came over to help me pack. Yes, Diane and Gerald. Our relationship had continued to grow over the past months. We'd never become best friends. We were too different for that, but we developed a mutual respect, an understanding. I can't believe Anthony and Keisha are doing this for you, Diane said as we wrapped dishes in newspaper. Buying you a whole house. I'm still in shock, I admitted. You raised a good man, she said. A generous man. I hope our grandchild inherits that from him. Our grandchild, I repeated, smiling. That sounds nice. She smiled back. It does, doesn't it? We're going to be co-grandparents, partners in spoiling this baby rotten. Within reason, I said with a laugh. Of course, within reason. Gerald walked in carrying boxes. Where do you want these? In the truck, I said. Thank you, Gerald. He nodded and walked back out. Diane watched him go. He's changed too, you know, we both have. This whole experience, what happened with you with Anthony and Keisha, it made us look at ourselves. Really look. And what did you see? I asked. That we'd become people we didn't like very much. People who valued things over people. Status over substance. We're working on it. It's not easy, but we're trying. That's all anyone can ask, I said. 2 weeks later, I moved into my new house. It was perfect, light and airy, updated kitchen, comfortable bedrooms, a small backyard with a garden space. Anthony and Keisha had furnished it for me, not expensively, but thoughtfully. A comfortable couch, a sturdy kitchen table, a beautiful bed with soft sheets. This is your space, Ma, Anthony said as he showed me around. Your sanctuary, we want you to be happy here. I am happy, I said, so happy. That night, my first night in the new house, I couldn't sleep. Not because I was uncomfortable, but because I was overwhelmed. I thought about the journey that had brought me here. That horrible lunch at Rosa's, where I'd been humiliated and accused. The moment I'd walked out with my dignity intact. The inheritance that had given me security. The counseling sessions that had forced everyone to face hard truths. The apologies, the growth, the healing. And now this, a beautiful home 3 blocks from my son and his growing family. I got out of bed and walked through my new house, touching the walls, looking out the windows at the quiet street. This was mine, not because I'd bought it, but because people who loved me had given it to me. And that made it even more precious. The next morning, there was a knock at my door. I opened it to find Keisha standing there with coffee and pastries. "Good morning," she said brightly. "I thought you might want some company on your first full day in the new house." "Come in," I said, smiling. We sat at my new kitchen table, eating pastries and drinking coffee. "Lorraine, can I talk to you about something?" Keisha asked after a while. "Of course. I want to apologize again, for everything. I know I've said it before, but I need you to really hear it." "Keisha, we've moved past that. Please, let me say this." I nodded. "That day at Rosa's, when my family treated you so badly, I should have stopped it immediately. I should have defended you, protected you. But I didn't. I sat there silent because I was a coward. You were caught between your family and your husband." "No," she interrupted. "I was caught between doing what was comfortable and doing what was right. And I chose comfort. I chose my family's approval over your dignity, over Anthony's respect." She set down her coffee cup. "My mother told me about her conversation with you, about her childhood, about why she became the way she was, and it made me realize something about myself." "What's that?" "I was doing the same thing she did, running from who I really was, trying to be someone I thought I should be instead of being authentic. I was so busy maintaining appearances that I forgot what actually mattered." "And what matters?" I asked gently. "People, relationships, love, character, all the things you showed us that day when you paid that bill and walked away. You didn't need to prove anything. You already knew your worth." She reached across the table and took my hand. "I want to be like you, Lorraine. I want to have that kind of strength, that kind of grace, that kind of unshakable sense of self." "You're already on your way," I said. "The fact that you can see these things about yourself, that you're willing to change, that's strength right there." "Will you help me?" she asked. "Will you teach me how to be a good mother, how to raise a child with character, how to be the kind of woman my daughter or son can be proud of?" My eyes filled with tears. It would be my honor. We spent the rest of the morning talking about motherhood, about values, about what kind of family she wanted to build. And I realized something beautiful. I wasn't just gaining a grandchild. I was gaining a real relationship with my daughter-in-law, a partnership, a friendship. Over the next few months, my life fell into a comfortable rhythm. I volunteered at the hospital 3 days a week. I had lunch with Diane once a week. We developed a routine of meeting at Bernie's Cafe to talk about life, family, and our journey toward becoming better people. I spent time with Anthony and Keisha, helping them prepare the nursery, going to doctor's appointments with them, being present. And I spent time with my other children, too. My daughter Renee, who lived across town with her husband and 3 kids. My son Marcus, who was a teacher and lived 2 hours away. My youngest, Patricia, named after my sister, who was finishing her master's degree. All of them had rallied around me after they'd heard about what happened at Rosa's. They'd been angry on my behalf, protective. But I told them the same thing I'd told everyone. This is about growth, about learning, about becoming better. One evening in September, about a week before Keisha's due date, I got a call from an unknown number. "Hello. Mrs. Davis, this is Monica, Keisha's sister." I tensed. Monica had been one of the worst offenders at that lunch. Hello, Monica. I wanted to call you to apologize. I know it's late. I know I should have done this months ago, but I've been too ashamed. I'm listening, I said carefully. What I said that day at the restaurant, accusing you of trying to skip the bill, that was horrible. Inexcusable. I jumped to conclusions based on nothing but my own prejudices. Why are you calling now? I asked, not accusatory, just curious. Because Keisha told me about everything. About the counseling, about your inheritance, about how you handled everything with such grace, and about how you're part of the family now, really part of it. She paused, and I realized I'm about to be an aunt. This baby that's coming, I want to be in their life, but I can't do that if I haven't made things right with their grandmother. So this call is about access to the baby? I asked. No, I mean, yes, I want to be part of the baby's life. But more than that, I want to make things right. I want to be a better person, like my mom is trying to be, like Keisha is becoming. What does better look like to you? I asked. It looks like apologizing when you're wrong, treating people with respect regardless of their bank account, being the kind of person a child can look up to. I thought about it. Monica, I appreciate this call, but apologies are just words. What matters is what comes next, how you act, how you treat people, who you choose to be. I understand, and I want to prove it to you. I want to show you that I can be better. Then show me, I said. Not through grand gestures, but through consistent, daily choices to be kind, to be respectful, to see people for who they are, not what they have. I will, she said. I promise. After we hung up, I sat thinking about how far we'd all come. 6 months ago, we were enemies, strangers, people who'd hurt each other deeply. Now we were becoming something else, not perfect, not without issues, but trying, growing, healing. On September 18th at 3:27 a.m., I got the call. Ma, we're at the hospital. Keisha's in labor. I threw on clothes, called a taxi. I still didn't drive at night and rushed to the hospital. When I arrived, Anthony met me in the waiting room. He looked terrified and excited at the same time. She's doing great, he said. They say it could be a few more hours, but Ma, we're having a baby. We're really having a baby. I hugged my son. You're going to be an amazing father. Diane and Gerald arrived an hour later, then Monica and her husband, then Keisha's other sister, Lorraine, and her family. We all sat in that waiting room together, drinking bad coffee, making small talk, waiting. It was surreal. 6 months ago, we couldn't stand each other. Now we were here together, united by anticipation and love for the baby who was about to enter the world. At 8:14 a.m., a nurse came out. She's here, a healthy baby girl, 7 pounds 4 ounces. Mom and baby are doing great. We all cheered. Anthony came out a few minutes later, crying happy tears. Ma, she's perfect. She's absolutely perfect. Do you want to meet your granddaughter? More than anything. He led me back to the room. Keisha was in bed, exhausted but glowing, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in a pink blanket. Lorraine, she said softly. Come meet Lorraine Ruth Davis. I stopped walking. What? Lorraine Ruth, after you and Ruth Carmichael, the two women who showed me what real strength and grace look like. I walked to the bed, tears streaming down my face, and looked down at my granddaughter. She was beautiful, perfect, tiny fingers, tiny nose, eyes closed, sleeping peacefully. Can I hold her? I whispered. Of course. Keisha placed that precious baby in my arms, and I felt my heart expand in a way I'd never experienced before. This was my granddaughter, named after me, a new generation, a fresh start. Hello, little Lorraine, I whispered. Welcome to the world. You're so loved, so wanted. You're going to grow up surrounded by people who will teach you to be strong, kind, brave, and true to yourself. Baby Lorraine yawned and snuggled closer to me. I looked up at Anthony and Keisha. Thank you, for this, for her, for everything. Thank you, Ma, Anthony said, for never giving up on us, for showing us what real family looks like. Over the next few weeks, I fell completely in love with little Lorraine. I visited almost every day, not intruding, not overstaying, just being present, helping when needed, holding the baby when Keisha needed to shower or sleep, cooking meals, doing laundry. Being a grandmother. Diane was there often too. We took turns helping, supporting, learning to co-grandparent. One afternoon, while Keisha was napping and the baby was sleeping, Diane and I sat in the living room having tea. "Can I tell you something?" she said. "Of course. I was so jealous of you when we first met." I looked at her surprised. "Jealous of me?" "Yes, you had something I'd been searching for my whole life. Peace, contentment, self-assurance. You didn't need external validation. You knew your worth, and it terrified me because I've never had that." "And now?" I asked. "Now I'm learning, slowly. My therapist says it's a journey. That I can't undo 50 years of conditioning overnight. But I'm trying, and having you as an example helps. I'm not perfect, Diane. I know you're not, but you're real, you're authentic, and that's what I want to be." We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Diane said, "Thank you for giving us another chance, for not writing us off as terrible people, for seeing the potential for growth." "Everyone deserves a chance to grow," I said, "as long as they're willing to do the work." "We're doing the work," she said. "All of us, because you showed us it was possible, that people can change, that families can heal." 2 months after baby Lorraine was born, Anthony and Keisha hosted a big family dinner. Everyone was invited. My children, all 4 of them, and their families. Keisha's family, friends. It was held at their house, and the theme was gratitude. "We wanted to gather everyone together," Anthony said as we all sat around their dining room and living room, too many people for one table, "to say thank you. This year has been incredible. Challenging, but incredible." Keisha stood up, holding baby Lorraine. "A year ago, our marriage was falling apart. Our families were divided. There was hurt and resentment and brokenness everywhere. But then something happened," Anthony continued. "Lorraine, my mother, showed us what real strength looks like. She stood up for herself. She demanded respect. She set boundaries, and she did it all with grace and dignity. She could have walked away from all of us," Keisha said, her voice breaking. "She could have written us off as toxic and moved on with her life. But she didn't. She gave us a chance to grow, to change, to be better." I felt tears sliding down my cheeks. "So this dinner is for you, Lorraine," Anthony said, looking at me. "To say thank you for never giving up on us, for showing us what real family means, for being the kind of woman we all aspire to be." Everyone raised their glasses. "To Lorraine," they said in unison. I stood up, overwhelmed. "Thank you," I said. "All of you, but I need you to understand something. I'm not special. I'm not some saint or hero. I'm just a woman who decided she deserved respect, who decided her dignity mattered, who decided to stand up for herself." I looked around the room at all these faces. My children, my grandchildren, my daughter-in-law, her family, our friends. "And all of you made the choice to grow, to change, to do better. That's not on me, that's on you. You did the hard work, you faced uncomfortable truths, you chose love over pride, you chose growth over comfort." I picked up my glass. "So this toast isn't just for me, it's for all of us. For the family we're building, for the love we're choosing, for the grace we're learning to show each other." "To family," I said. "To family," everyone echoed. As the evening went on, I found myself standing in the kitchen with Diane, washing dishes, while everyone else was in the living room laughing and talking. "Can you believe this?" she asked, gesturing toward the living room. "6 months ago, we could barely stand each other. Now we're washing dishes together at a family dinner." "Life is strange," I agreed. "Lorraine, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you forgive me, really, truly forgive me, for how I treated you?" I dried my hands and turned to face her. "Yes, Diane, I forgive you, completely." How can you just let go of something that hurtful?" "Because holding on to it only hurts me," I said. "Forgiveness isn't about excusing what you did. It's about freeing myself from the weight of anger and resentment. It's about choosing peace over bitterness. I want to learn how to do that, she said. Then practice, I said. Start with small things. Let go of little grudges, choose grace over judgment. It gets easier with time. She hugged me suddenly. Thank you for being patient with me, for not giving up on me. Thank you for being willing to change, I said. Later that night, after everyone had gone home, I sat in my beautiful house, looking at the photos from the evening. Photos of baby Lorraine being passed around, of my children laughing together, of Diane and me standing side by side, smiling, of Anthony and Keisha looking at each other with love and respect. This was my family now, imperfect, complicated, but real. We'd been through fire, we'd hurt each other, we'd made terrible mistakes. But we'd also chosen to heal, to grow, to build something new. I thought about that horrible day at Rosa's, about being accused of being a thief, about walking out of that restaurant humiliated and hurt. If someone had told me then that it would lead to this, to healing, to growth, to deeper relationships, to a family united, I wouldn't have believed them. But here we were. And as I got ready for bed that night, I whispered a prayer of gratitude. Thank you for the hard times that taught me my strength. Thank you for the people who hurt me and then chose to grow. Thank you for second chances. Thank you for family, messy, complicated, beautiful family. Thank you for showing me that it's never too late for healing. I climbed into bed and closed my eyes. And I slept peacefully, knowing that tomorrow would bring more opportunities to love, to grow, to be present for the people who mattered. Because that's what life was about. Not perfection, not avoiding pain, not holding grudges, but showing up, doing the work, choosing love over and over again. Even when, especially when it was hard. Lorraine Davis had learned a lot in her 70 years. But the most important lesson was this: you teach people how to treat you. And when you demand respect, when you set boundaries, when you stand up for your dignity, you give others permission to do the same. You create a ripple effect of growth and healing that extends far beyond yourself. And that, I realized as I drifted off to sleep, was the most powerful legacy of all. Not money, not status, not achievements, but the courage to stand up for yourself and the grace to help others do the same. That was real wealth. That was real success. That was real love. If this story touched you, please subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell for more emotional stories like this. Tell me in the comments where you're watching from. Somewhere out there, I might be reading.